It is really an honor for me to be among a group of educators, and I really want to share some of my ideas with you. I am very impressed with your goal of facilitating transformative education innovations, and this is really needed in our societies. I therefore would not dream of trying to do a feature address and delving into any kind of theory or methodology in a group like this. I'm a historian at heart, so what I want to do is to try and share some of my personal experiences, some of my own journey, and I also want to use my specialization of history to show the critical need to engage as educators, to elaborate on the constant need to reassess and reevaluate our place and our role in our nation's development trajectory. I come from a family of teachers. My two grandmothers, my grandfather, my mother and my father, and one of my brothers were all teachers. What I have done has always seemed to me to be a natural extension of that. And I will dare to say that I think I've always done it well. I have therefore proceeded without much thought in a direction that seemed pretty obvious to me. I'm very comfortable as a teacher at heart. And because of that, I think at times it has been very difficult to embrace the uncomfortableness that we as educators must engage in to truly transform our societies. It is also clear to me that educators, including myself, have not valued ourselves or themselves sufficiently. And it is also therefore no surprise that I will also posit that I don't think our society generally fully understands the role of educators, and I include from preschool to university level. It must involve far more than the insights into specific disciplines. I want to suggest, therefore, that we must all be prepared to get uncomfortable. I have studied history, and I have been fortunate enough to contribute as an educator on several levels. I have a career as an educator that has spanned over 26 years. But I must also add, I have been waiting on a change to come that has not come. I'm tired. I'm tired of looking at new ideas and methodologies, which were described as new since I was an undergraduate. But they still have not become part of a new mainstream discussion, nor are they perspectives that are shared by the general public. I hope that an association such as yours will be able to make the kind of difference that is needed. If we are honest with ourselves, in our hearts, I think we all know that something has to change. And if this instinct was not enough, a combination of events that have turned our world into a tailspin must tell us that the time for change is now. Influenced by Time magazine and what they have called the overdue awakening, my new hashtag is that it is not a restart, it is a rethink. Who here, after having witnessed what happened in Trinidad and Tobago yesterday, would not agree with this? This makes an association such as this critical and timely. We have to rethink not only what we do as educators, but how we do it and why we do it. I want to put on my historian lenses at this time and say that part of the problem is that too much of such considerations are done in an atmosphere of contestation. Contestation is usually a catalyst for change, and I want to stress that this is good. But we must evolve into another kind of space so that the society as a whole really benefits. I look at this association as starting to carve out that space. We must find different fora to facilitate transformation, and I hope this will be one of them. I want to keep on my historian lenses for a while, and I want to use the contemporary discussions in our society about monuments and memorials, and indeed, to meet the stark intensity and imbalance of the protests yesterday, I want to use these things as avenues to try and bring the nature of the issues I want to discuss today to life. The Caribbean, we all know, can be described as a scene of contestation. If we take Trinidad as an example, discovered by the Spanish, colonized by the French, captured and developed by the British. A history of coercive labor systems, the encomienda system, enslavement, indentureship. This is what is at our foundation. Yes, there was independence, and with independence, political power was grasped from the white elite. The Africans and Indians predominate in the political realm, but the majority of the population has not made that rise up the economic ladder. This is something we have to face. This is now complicated with class distinctions, which generally reflect racial and ethnic distinctions, and also geographical spaces. So therefore, on the surface, we are a diverse, multi-ethnic society with several groups that coexist generally peacefully. We have adopted each other's cultural vestiges. Our culture is described proudly as a Creole culture. Diversity is our middle name. In terms of education, we have excelled at all the traditional examinations. However, we have not fully reckoned with our past. The most visible manifestations are periodic outbursts of protest, 1930s, 1970s, 1990s, and now 2020. I want to stress to you that this is a pattern that we must look at as educators and ask ourselves what is at the core. I want to suggest that numerous narratives intersect. A history characterized by cruelty, violence, racism, and colonization. People with amazing determination, creativity, and survival instincts. Enduring legacies of empire, dependency, and marginalization. A people characterized by liminality, hybridity, a blending of cultures, a conundrum of diaspora versus national identities, as well as immigration and its related complexities. To be impactful as educators, we must lead the way, and we must start to directly address these issues in the academic setting. Our communities have proven to be resilient to the process of decolonization. Independence has not brought equal opportunities for all of us. We are still very much a part of what I call that process of becoming. Where will we end up? Who would we be? It is time to get uncomfortable. The public discourse in Trinidad and Tobago has concentrated on statues, renaming these very visible, what I call ceremonies of possession. But what about the invisible? Can we deal with the visible without dealing with the invisible? The discussions in the public domain involve renaming national awards, changing the name on the UWI campus of Milner Hall to Freedom Hall, removal of Columbus's statue from the center of Port of Spain, requests for a tribunal to identify monuments and names to be changed. Important, but surely this must be part of a bigger and more holistic process and discussion. At the very core, these are really demands for cultural signifiers from segments of our population, but generally they are not articulated as what they really are, a phase in our development that we must navigate for us to move into another phase of Caribbean nationhood. These developments have in fact created new spheres of conflict. It has distanced some people from that kind of advocacy. It has shown up divisions in our society, which were there under the surface, but not in the open. Where's the voice of our educators? How do we combine the role of educator and activist? We should all be asking ourselves, what does this tell us about what we need to do in our classrooms? Many issues have become visible. One, and this is clear to me as a historian, it has shown up the lack of historical knowledge in the general population. Two, it has become apparent that we must confront past historical wrongs. The question is, are we doing it the right way? Three, how do we create sites of conscience and not sites of contestation? There's a big difference. 4, how do we include other ethnic and cultural groups? How do we deal with text and language when we are dealing with several different groups? How do we take that additional step of creating public dialogues, of making the connection to the real challenges that we face today? How do we deal with trauma? This is clearly what is coming out from some of the discussions in our communities. And finally, does one size fit all? Does the nature of the pain in different groups require a different response? I want to suggest that true independence must involve expanding perspectives to portray views beyond the dominant group, whether that group is white or Black. But how do we do this in a multiplicity of scenarios like we have in Trinidad and Tobago? How is authority shared for documentation and interpretation of local culture in a place like Trinidad and Tobago? When I think about what has happened over the years, new narratives have been written by academics, but they still have not really been internalized by the average man in the street. There have been changes to the curricula in primary, secondary, and tertiary levels. It seems to be easier to do this in the formal academic sphere than in the informal public sphere. In the public domain, there is no consistent discussion about these issues outside of periodic outbursts of contestation. There's clearly need for a bridge into new and revised insights. I want to suggest that educators must be that bridge. I want to suggest that this association must be part of that bridge. It is time to see ourselves for who we are and take a new look at what and how we do. Educators must become active sites, not just for education, but I want to suggest for public healing in Trinidad and Tobago. I welcome this Association of Caribbean Visionary Educators as a forum that is much needed. It is part of the transition from educator to activism and transforming our societies. It shows the understanding that the role of an educator goes beyond the number of students who pass examinations and the number of scholarships a particular school gets. It is about what kinds of people and society we are creating. It is about how we are preparing a next generation to face the future. It is about us preparing to enter the next phase of Caribbean development. And I want to say that I strongly feel the next phase has to be better than the last one. It has to take all our people with us, not just some groups. We have to deal with Caribbean people as a whole. And I end by asking you to just imagine if we have done this with a small group. Imagine what can happen if we as educators manage to unleash the potential in all our people. I really want to congratulate Dr. James, aka Freddie, and her team for what I think is an amazing association. I wish you all every success in our society. Thank you.